When we think about crazy drugs, your grandma's good old spices probably never come to mind. I'm talking about nutmeg. Believe it or not, that innocent spice sitting in your kitchen can actually take you on a wild trip. Yep, I was pretty shocked too. So I did some research. And it turns out your grandma's favorite baking ingredient contains some special compounds like myristicin, elemicin, and saffron gamma terpineol that can cause hallucinations, dizziness, and even euphoria. I also came across a report of a newbie who decided to try it, and let's just say it didn't exactly go as planned. I was 15 years old, and my only experience with all drugs was with a lot of Adderall, which I was prescribed to, and a lot of oxycodone and tramadol, which my father was prescribed to about a year before, and I decided to leave sitting around and going to waste. Both were no longer part of my life, and being yet to enter into the dope game or to discover DXM, I was desperately searching for ways to get high. It turns out that people who take nutmeg in hopes of catching a high usually find themselves waiting and waiting and waiting some more. Like they just ordered the world's slowest Uber. And because nutmeg's got the patience of a turtle, some people get impatient and think, well, this isn't working. Might as well take more. Then, bam, out of nowhere it hits hard. 1 minute you're casually snacking on this cola-like spice, impatiently waiting for a chip like a kid on Christmas Eve, and the next, you're convinced your kitchen table is giving you life advice. For this user, 4 hours into the experience, he felt nothing. But 20 hours later, out of nowhere, it was like he was suddenly in the middle of a trip he never saw coming. While helping his mom figure out YouTube, he realized that Genesis' Birth of Fifth was the best, and I mean the best song that I've ever heard. He goes on to say, I felt really sleepy, but in a good way. I felt like everything was perfect and excellent. And then the real fun started. Bloodshot eyes, weird usual distortions, and eventually slipping in and out of consciousness. He described it as strangely shaped after images in the darkness, with time dragging on like an awkward conversation at a family reunion. And as he put it, nutmeg can blast you into smithereens, so maybe stick to putting it on your eggnog instead. But if nutmeg doesn't surprise you enough, let me introduce you to a little something called DOC, 4-chloro-2,5-dimethoxyamphetamine. It might sound like something out of a chemistry textbook, but trust me, it's anything but boring. This user thought she could handle it. But as you will see, things took a turn she did not expect. I'm very sensitive to stimulants. I did a little research regarding DOC, and doses simply because it was one of Shulgin's chemicals. This was a dumb decision. I obtained the single tap of DOC from a reputable friend that advised me that it would be a good dose. I knew the duration was long, but I did not know what I was in for. I had experience with 2CE, 2CB, 2CI, LSD, 4-ACO-DMT, DMT, mushrooms, and 2,5-I-NBOME, so I thought I could handle this psychedelic compound. Evidently, I could not. At first, you might be thinking, hey, I got this. It starts off like any other trip. Nice, soothing, no big deal. But as the hours pass by, things start getting really weird and dark. By the 18th hour, you will probably find yourself having a staring contest with your closet. Only that your opponent is some alien-like being with big eyes and porous skin. You are relaxing in your room, or at least you were, until E.T. decided to hang out in your closet. But the fun really begins around the 20th hour, when the shadow people make their grand entrance. But these shadow folks don't just stand there, they're like active participants. They start whispering, yanking at your hair and clothes, and you find yourself in your own personal horror movie that refuses to stop. Unlike DMT, which only lasts a few minutes, DOC drags this nightmare onto a 12 to 24-hour marathon. And trust me, it's almost always a nightmare. So imagine you're trapped all day in a haunted house with what feels like years unending. You know you need sleep, but closing your eyes seems like a greater risk than staying awake. It's like the sleep deprivation version of psychedelic hide and seek, but you don't want to be the one hiding. DOC is one ride that goes from, whoa, this is cool, to, please let this end now. I didn't know who or where it was, just that I am in a big trouble and I'm probably dying. So if you're thinking about trying DOC, you better be ready for a ride you might not want to finish. Or better yet, maybe just stick with something a little more predictable. And just when you thought we can get darker, let's talk about the flesh-eating drug known as Krokodil. This drug is quite popular in the streets of Russia. It's basically like heroin's cousin, but way worse. Its chemical name is desomorphine. The name flesh-eating drug comes from the effects it has on the skin. It turns it into a green and scaly form, like a crocodile's, before it starts to rot off. It is made from codeine, iodine, lighter fluid, and some other household chemicals. And once it is injected, it gives a quick but intense high. The high only lasts for about 90 minutes, which means users have to cook up and inject it constantly, making it a full-time job. While heroin is bad, Krokodil takes destruction to a whole new level. It's like you're looking in the mirror and seeing your skin peel away, like you're turning into some kind of zombie. One user described how their friend's flesh was falling off, yet she continued injecting, trapped in the cycle. She won't go to the hospital, she just keeps injecting. Her flesh is falling off, and she can hardly move anymore. So why isn't she stopping, you might ask? The thing is, Krokodil is pretty cheap and very addictive. You can cook it at home with stuff you find under your kitchen sink, things like lighter fluid, iodine, or codeine. If heroin costs around 20 pounds, Krokodil can go for as little as 2 pounds a pack. Throw in some household ingredients you can grab from the market, and voila. It may not sound too bad, but what you're really injecting can go wrong quicker than the snap of my fingers. Like this. Wait, that didn't snap. Let me try it again. Like this. And if you miss the vein, boom. Your skin starts to dissolve faster than ice on a hot day. And the withdrawal phase? Imagine the worst flu you've ever had, then multiply that by 100. It can last up to a month, and the pain is so bad that doctors have to use heavy-duty tranquilizers just to keep users from passing out. While the next might not be so horrifying, it's still going to be a wild and intense experience. Ketamine. Now maybe you've heard of this one. It's sometimes used as a party drug or even for treating depression. But when it's misused, it takes you on a trip that'll have you questioning everything. It's like being pulled out of your body, floating through space, and then wondering, wait, is gravity even a thing anymore? But then again, is gravity really a thing? Or maybe it's just something our minds made up, and we're all just, getting a bit sidetracked here. In the 30 minutes to an hour that ketamine lasts for, time doesn't seem to follow the same rules. 1 minute you're laying down, and the next, you're in some cosmic journey that feels like it's stretched out for hours. One user described the experience like this. I saw a silhouette of myself in a slight fetal position, floating in an immense void of space, where time was foreign and I was the only inhabitant. That is some deep out-of-body kind of stuff. Ketamine's dissociative effects can be so intense that you don't even feel like you're in your own body anymore. And while that might sound kind of peaceful, things can take a turn real fast. So yeah, ketamine may not be your best bet for a good time. So we've been through ketamine, but if you thought that was a wild ride, hold on to your seat because we have something even more intense. 3-MeO-PCP. Unlike ketamine, which is like a short trip, 3-MeO-PCP can last anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, or in some cases, days. And if you're lucky enough to hit a bad trip, you'll be hoping and praying it ends sooner than later. This stuff isn't exactly something you'd find at your local party. It is so powerful that even experienced users tread lightly around it. It's notorious for inducing psychosis, mania, and what people call ego death. A fancy way of saying you might temporarily forget you even exist as a person. While you're on it, everything might feel like an euphoric, exciting ride, but when the high starts to wear off, the real adventure begins. 1 minute you're on top of the world, and the next you're staring down paranoia, vivid hallucinations, and bizarre out-of-body experiences. One user described their experience by saying, I felt I was committing York Bowen, a euphemism for suicide. So yeah, if ketamine gave us a taste of dissociation, 3-MeO-PCP cranks it up a notch with the side of, what on earth is happening right now? So we've talked about some pretty wild substances already, but it's time to wrap things up with one of the most mysterious and intense experiences out there. Ayahuasca, N-dimethyltryptamine, DMT. This isn't your average party drug. It's like something of which would brew up in our potion lab. This is brewed from a mix of plants, one packed with DMT, and the other containing an MAOI, or RIMA, like Banisteriopsis capivine or Syrian rue. Ayahuasca has been used in shamanic rituals for centuries, and it is known for its powerful mind-bending hallucinations that can last for hours, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours of pure cosmic craziness. Think of it as a kaleidoscope for your brain. Wow, look at those beautiful colors. But don't get too comfortable. That also comes with a side of ego death. One user thought they were about to have some deep encounter with ayahuasca herself. The first hallucination, I was trying to engage in sexual intercourse with the personification of ayahuasca, which was a large 3D cylinder made entirely of visuals with a few arm-like protrusions at random points. I saw an overweight humanoid in a baseball cap and ill-fitting t-shirt watching TV on an armchair. This was another personification of ayahuasca. I guess ayahuasca has quite the sense of humor. It's more like DMT's crazy mom, who is into magic with a side of extra chaos. And let's not forget about the purging. It's not just throwing up. It's like your body is on a mission to get rid of everything you've ever eaten or thought about eating. It's like dealing with a nightmare, having the worst hangover, and soiling your pants at the same time. It's not exactly a vibe. So if you're curious about what happens when you drink ancient plant tea, ayahuasca got you covered. But don't expect it to play nice and taste nice. It tastes bad. Once you take that sip, you're in for a full ride. No refunds, no turning back. And that's all on the wildest, most random drugs you've probably never heard of. Let's all agree these aren't actually bucket list experiences. If you like this video and want to dive into even more strange stuff, drop a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.